All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Today I'm interviewing best-selling author Dwayne Marino, who is considered one of the best car sales trainers in North America. Dwayne graduated from the University of Western Ontario and has been in the automotive industry since he was 16 years old. Dwayne's philosophy is that in order to be successful in life, one must obtain what he calls an unstoppable mindset and attitude. Dwayne, welcome to the show.
Hey, Landon. How you going, brother?
I am fantastic. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Cool. Well, in this process, one of the things that I like to do with most of my guests is tell us a little bit of your backstory. What are your early life processes and things that you went through to get here?
Okay. That's okay. I can go a bunch of directions there. I'm going to give you just some little snippets. Okay. Sure. So an idea where people, make different decisions and change. When I was a teenager, I had many different jobs, and my career right now that I'm doing, I started to form as a teenager, but it was really me trying to, I guess, reprogram myself for success, and I could see where things were going. It wasn't going the way I probably wanted to go. Anyways, as a backdrop to salespeople being born or created or whatever else, I threw a hamburger at a guy through a drive-through window when I was a teenager working at McDonald's, because he was picking on my paper hat, my vinyl uniform, and I don't know what happened. He didn't like the way I tried to upsell the fries. And my social skills were lacking a little bit, but more so I had a really short fuse. I was going through a bunch of stuff, and I told him to kind of keep going, and I turned into a burger bomb right through the drive-through window. I was fired on my exit interview. My manager, was going like, "What's your problem?" and all this kind of stuff. I was kind of crying, and I said, his name was Fred. I said, "Fred, listen. I said, I told you when you hired me not to put me on counter, not to put me on cash or dealing with people. I'll clean toilets, I'll flip burgers, I'm a hard worker, I just bought a car. I was doing drywall and insulation as well at that time. I always had 2 or 3 jobs through high school and university. I said, I'm going through a lot of stuff. I don't want to be, let go." And somehow I appealed to him, and he rehired me, and 3 or 4 months later I was employee of the month. And from that point forward, I really was never sure if I could be in a position or in a career that involved people. Then when I was coming out of university, I was working for a Chrysler dealership. I was changing oil, a little bit of time as a service advisor, jack of all trades, master of none. It went under, and I found myself in a position where I had to completely change gears. I ended up getting into sales again, or sales on a full-time basis several years later. And I actually got into training because training involved travel at that time. I was working for a corporation for 7 years. They were starting up a training arm. I had experience at a dealership for about 2 or 3 years. So because I had graduated from university and I had some retail experience, worked for a dealership, and also had some other stuff they're looking for, I got into training not to learn how to sell, not to learn how to be a trainer. I got into training just to travel. And what happened was I went down to Birmingham for about a month. And I got to see firsthand for the first time great salespeople. I was never around them. The salesperson that was at the dealership I was at before that was doing 11 cars a month. In the industry, 11 cars a month is about average. He was the kingpin. That was my blueprint for success. I thought that was the best anybody could ever do. And then ended up, doing some work and working around people who are doing, 3, 4, 5 times that. And I just had my eyes really woken up to the fact that sales can be a profession, and it is learnable if you've got the personal motivation and desire to make things happen. And my motivation wasn't money, it wasn't success, it was to get out of some professional and personal pain that I was in at the time. So that was kind of some really formative years. I've got the real details of my books and stuff online as far as what happened. I had a bunch of stuff go on with me between probably 16 and 23 that caused a lot of personal grief and professional pain. But I forged myself into a really different personality, different career, in the attempt to not have to ever go back to what I was doing before. And inadvertently became a great salesperson and a great trainer after I got some blueprints, some ideas on what that's supposed to look like. I didn't grow up in that, anything around me and my family that were any good at that kind of stuff. The 2 uncles I had that were self-employed and were in sales were both disasters, personally, professionally, financially. But I was very lucky to be around some great people.
Yeah. So a couple of things that I hear in there is you were involved with a group of people, and really they were C players, but that was the current blueprint that you had. And then when you were introduced to people that were crushing it, you were like, wow, there's actually something here way above and beyond what you had seen up to that point. One thing that I know is that good salespeople tend to be the highest paid people across the board, but there's a big distinction there between average and really not very good salespeople, and then people who actually do it really well.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I understand is that you're considered by some people as one of the best car sales trainers in all of North America.
That's what they say. Whoever those people are, as we say with those surveys, that's what they say. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So one of the things that we connected on before we started this interview is that neither one of us agree about scripts. We don't think that scripts are the way to go. We don't think that that's accurate. Tell me a little bit more about how you came to that conclusion.
I think it was the first time I ever saw a script. So, again, if I look back to my formative years, it was probably 4 years of that period when I first came across great salespeople. Great salespeople do a lot of things very consistently. I often say that if you're lucky enough to be around great salespeople for a period of time, they only repeat stuff that works, right? They're not going to repeat a bunch of things that don't work. So you're going to see some common threads in their sales conversations and in their body language and things that they do. But when I first was exposed to a script, I actually thought it was honestly, I thought it was a joke. I'm reading this thing, salesperson says this, customer says that, salesperson says this, and already having been in sales and done lots of stuff, somewhat successfully selling all kinds of different things. I go, how can this even be a training tool when there's no way in the world any customer is going to follow the other side of the script? Mm-hmm. So as a salesperson is relying on those word tracks to try to understand what's going on, what do you do when the customer doesn't respond the way you expect? So I find scripts actually are more of a hindrance than a help for salespeople. I think training companies use it to create a reliance on themselves, because if you've got salespeople that are trained on your scripts, then you keep memorizing my scripts, and my scripts are the only way. I guess it maybe creates a training business for some companies. I know people that do that, but as far as creating excellent salespeople, it's not possible because it doesn't cover enough ground. There's not enough options there. Mm-hmm. I'm a big believer in soundtracks or word bites. Sure. Or word tracks. Having a few sentences that might string together, a few words, or definitely language and phrases. But a script is, go try to play sports or any kind of a dynamic endeavor like that with a script. It doesn't work, but you have certain situations that you call on certain tool sets. But I remember laughing. I actually thought it was a joke, and the instructor at that time said, "What are you laughing at?" And I said, "Is this supposed to be something we're supposed to memorize?" And he's like, "Yes, word for word." And I have no problem telling people what I think, and I use the F word a little bit, and I always have. And I said, there's no effing way I'm going to do this. It was comical to me. Comical.
Yeah. There's one thing that I've noticed with that, and I have about 15 years experience in sales, not as a trainer, but fairly high level sales, business to business, finance to corporations. And all of the businesses that do that and sell that, that's what they do. Here's the script. Here's the thing. It's linear, right? I understand the process by which a conversation happens, and there's principles that underlie, and you have to introduce yourself to somebody, and then you ask them questions and you call. There's a process to it, but there's no real shortcut that actually works. You can't utilize a script. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
And you actually use one of the favorite words that I like to use in my seminars. I like to call it the 6 or 7 Ps. And principles are like laws. They never change. I really don't care what you sell, who you sell it to. Most people would rather buy from somebody they like or respect. That's kind of a consistent. Practices or strategies, those are going to change from situation to situation because you have to mirror the customer, right? But you have to learn practices for sure. That was a big wake-up call for me. I wasn't ever given any practices. So when I went to my original training, when I was in my early 20s, I got a whole tool set of practices. Like, wow, okay, now I get it. But practices will still vary from sale to sale. Then we've got psychology. I'm a big student and believer in psychology because if you're in sales, it's the people business. So you take your principles, which are the laws, the practice, psychology, bring those together, and then you start watching for patterns. Patterns are things that are working, things that aren't working, and if you're intelligent, you got to start making changes when things aren't working. This is going to increase your probability of selling somebody because you're still not going to sell everybody. And I always say you're going to regret selling the odd person something as well because some people are a nightmare to service. And the last P becomes predictable, right? You put that all together and your results and your outcome become a little bit more predictable. But you're right, it can't be linear, but it can't be too lateral either.
Right.
So it's really a fine mix of those two. that make, better salespeople and better sales, I think, practices and sales trainers.
Right.
Yeah.
It's more of a recipe than it is
right.
a script to a play. There's a recipe, there's a process to it for sure.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
So you touched on the psychology.
Yeah.
How do you think the psychology of the buyer has changed in the last 5 to 10 years in the marketplace as that relates to what we're trying to do as salespeople?
Yeah. This right here, right? These mobile computers that we talk into once in a while when we feel like it, these mobile business devices. If I've got every usage statement, as today when we're watching this doing this podcast, if I got your bill from your phone company, like this much of it is talk time. The rest is obviously texting and surfing and emailing and all kinds of other stuff. So right now people are avoiding picking up the call. We all call display. You have a question, you can't even bother typing it in, you talk it into the phone. And most people, I don't care what you're buying, we do a lot less shopping around physically, a lot more virtually, and at the point of contact, you're as sold today on the first point of contact, depending on what you're buying, as somebody was maybe 10 or 15 or 20 years ago after their third or fourth contact, because you were able to, disseminate and decide some stuff. So that, I think people have to really understand now that everything that you bring to the marketplace, if it's going to be, yourself as a salesperson, you're selling something physically, like a car or a house or insurance or whatever it is, face to face, your personal presentation has to be on point, because they're there to do business, and that's the end of the story. If you aren't what they're expecting or beyond what they're expecting, you're done. Your website, your social media, Googling your own name, all kinds of stuff. I tell salespeople all the time to install certain tools on their phone to help understand their market and their client a little better. I think the biggest change in psychology is those. A lot of people are not on their computer. I've got my laptop on right now. I can't remember the last time I showed my laptop.
Mm-hmm.
It's just more stable, easier for this. I was going to do it on my phone, but really that wasn't. We're doing everything on those things.
Yeah. So
I think that's been the biggest change. And if somebody loses their phone, we feel completely lost without our phone. I don't know my family's phone numbers anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that tool really, if you look at all the dynamics of psychology that's happened in the business, it's been a result of that.
Right.
Yeah, really reduced attention spans because of it, all kinds of things.
Right.
Yeah.
It's changed the way we interact as a species. A lot of people say that the connection is gone, and I disagree with that. I think we're more connected to what it is that we want to be connected with. And so if you as a salesperson can understand that and play within that context, it makes it really easy to connect. The problem is most people just don't understand that.
Yeah, well said.
One of the things that you mentioned in there when you were talking about the phone, I mean, same thing, right? And I use that for about everything except for doing these podcasts.
Yeah.
You mentioned there's tools that you utilize, you help salespeople understand which tools to use. Can you share some of those tools that you recommend?
Yeah, for sure. So I usually start off my seminars when I get to that part about technology. And people say, they research their purchase. I say, first thing, get out of your mindset the person's sitting at the computer. If you talk to computer stores, whatever they are, wherever they're in your area, they'll tell you that the PC business, the laptop business, is going the way of Blockbuster Video, because everybody's doing everything on the phone. So when you think about somebody researching, get this idea of them sitting on their keyboard like this at whatever time of the day, get that out of your head. They're doing it in front of you. If you're selling face to face, they're doing it before they come in. They're on that thing all the time. If you are selling in an environment where you are selling face to face, a lot of people now have voice notes going all the time. They're recording things. Mm-hmm. So if you want to sell by bullshitting and lying, people can destroy you in 1 second on social media. You don't want to be that man or that woman that shows up on 60 Minutes or whatever the show is, being that person. So I think you have to be aware of that. Some people actually have seen the what I call the poor man's GoPro. They've got the this thing sitting here like this because it's videoing what's going on. Mm-hmm. So with that understanding, that's like really, really basic. When they leave their offices, a lot of customers now are taking pictures and videos of whatever's on the desk. They can blow that up and take a look at it. So the need for privacy in your own space is important. They might be leaning back and say they're texting their girlfriend or their wife, and they're Googling the sales rep. They're pulling them up on Instagram and LinkedIn or Facebook. So they've got to have that whole dynamic. They have to understand that customer is perhaps interfacing with them in ways that they haven't thought of. So I say to salespeople, listen, you've got to be smart enough to use the same tools yourself. So examples of this, in sales appointments, I often say, obviously, Facebook the customer, look them up, see what they're interested in. It makes it a lot easier to have a conversation with somebody or mirror them if you have some history of who they are, if you've already Googled them or something like that. Don't go to LinkedIn because that shows that you pulled them up. But something else would be smart to do. Google Earth is an application I tell salespeople to have, so you can actually take a look at where they work or where they live. Easier again to understand that person, what they might be interested in, or bring up things as conversation or small talk that might be effective. Having a free text message app on your phone, so you have a secondary phone number that you can use for business purposes. If you don't give everybody the opportunity to text you, you're maybe not talking to them again.
Right.
Because email is just too arduous for everybody. Everybody's deleting emails out of their inboxes now without opening them. And I'm never answering my phone if I can help it. If I don't know who's on that call display, and if I don't feel like picking up, I'm not. So these free text message apps are tremendous for salespeople. So you've got connectivity with everybody, and if a call or a text comes into that app, it's a business life. Then depending on what you're in, I know in the car business and real estate and stuff, something as simple as a finance calculator. So I don't have to, contact anybody else or go to my computer. I can do all kinds of things on that. And something like Google Duo, which is a great video chat platform, which works across, Androids to iPhones and things that way. And I've sold lots of stuff now to people just doing video chats where the salespeople don't even think of offering it up. Why drive around and make these physical appointments if I don't have to? Or if I can show you the product quicker and easier than anybody else via a video, a lot of salespeople are blown away by that quickness and the transparency and so on. So, the address books, we don't use this properly. I mean, these phones are they're golden. They've made my business, and again, I cater mostly to automotive, but I make lots of salespeople that come into the car business that came from other industries before they get to that, or salespeople that are leaving the car business to go to something else and end up doing work for them in the businesses that they're in. Sales is sort of sales when it comes to face-to-face things. At least you're selling tangible items. These phones are gold. They're worth their weight in gold, and a lot of people just don't see them as a mobile business device. They've not even thought that through yet, really.
Yeah.
Never mind all the social media stuff you can obviously push to that phone. That's a whole other world.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that piece up. Everything that I say, 98% of everything that I do online or in business is online. I run an ads agency, and then I do this sales training thing.
Okay.
The profiles for LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and whatever else it is that somebody would use as a profile funnel when their customers go to look them up, do you get into any of that with the people that you're teaching the sales process? Do you have any recommendations on what to and what not to use, what to include, et cetera, as far as the platforms go?
As far as what to post, what to say about yourself?
How to present yourself. It's essentially a digital business card, right?
Yeah. There's 5 things you have to watch, I think, that people will react to. The first 3 are things everybody talks about: conversation. Don't have anything up ever that's political. That's into anything to do with sex or religion. And I made a mistake there. I sometimes put up stuff. It's never on it. I don't have any political views I'm pushing in one or the other. Even put up an interesting article if somebody's got something to say in that arena, and you either have a conversation starting you didn't want to start, I just thought people might find that post interesting, or you never get a comment or a like on it, and everything above and below that you have 55 people reacting, which is saying something by itself. So anything that you're putting up, you can't share any political, sexual, religious views. The other 2 things are anything that might cause fear or offend somebody's ego, because fear and ego are 2 very they're motivators. People react on those things. They don't think it through. So as far as broad filters go, that would be the 5 broad filters when I look at my profiles or somebody else's. You just don't want that stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff on social media, if you take a look at it, it's actually, that's all they're doing.
Right. Yeah, it's the platform for that, for sure. Okay. What's your process for teaching the actual craft of salesmanship instead of just having salespeople repeating everything somebody tells them? What's that process like?
Okay. I was lucky enough to learn through something called modeling. So there's only really 3 ways to learn. One is trial and error, and the other one is experience. Trial and error and experience take too long. You're going to make too many mistakes. So, if you want to learn how to make the best pizza in the world, I don't want to go by my own experience or trial and error, right? You're going to burn a lot of pizzas, make a lot of mistakes. So you want to find somebody that embodies how you want to be. Everybody's got a different idea what that is. once you find a model in an industry or an individual, it's pretty simple to observe them and start to work on them as far as copying and distilling down the traits that you think are making them successful. Start taking out certain elements of them to see what's not going to affect your results, and you're down to what I call really the, you've codified the most important aspects of that person. So that's actually a science on how to model somebody by taking out stuff that you feel is not working and then adding stuff in that you think is. But that's what I do in my training. So the first thing I always say to people, and one thing that makes me, I don't know if it's any different, but I've been around this business for a long time, and I've really seen the shifts that have happened in the last couple of decades, is I still sell. So my sales licensing is still good that we need in this area and cut the car business. When my clients, I still talk to customers. I take and make phone calls. Everything that I teach people to do, I do in front of them with clients, and I do it regularly. So I've been able to see the shifts in the dynamic of the customer over the last few years. So I start off my training by modeling. Then we break it down into the principles and the practices and the psychology of why I'm doing what I'm doing. Then they get word tracks. And I say with these word tracks, these are, in my view, as far as how I sell and other top salespeople that I've met, these are fundamental things you have to master. Now, you want to make it sound like yourself, not like me. So replace any kind of, not irrelevant, but unimportant language or words with your own syntax.
Right.
Don't sound like me, but you can't really lose the essence of it, because then you're not going to be effective. And then we practice, drill, rehearse it out loud until these salespeople have some working knowledge of how these word tracks work. And then I show them again how to do it, so they get to step back and see how it works again against my modeling. And then we drill it some more, and and then test it, written testing. Yeah. So I come at them in probably 4 or 5 different learning approaches. I really don't like them sitting down and shutting up like we're told to do at school. It's one of the most ineffective ways to learn. They move around a lot. They're standing up. They're actually going through the gestures they're going to be doing when they're selling, because it actually gets embedded into your body. You literally get muscle memory for the sales process if you're physically moving like you would be moving when you're with the client.
Right.
Yeah.
It helps the mind remember that too, and structure the actual process by which you're teaching them.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
One thing that, and I've been in sales for quite some time, but the sales world's really had a bad reputation for quite a long time, especially your industry. My father and my uncle were both car salesmen for,
oh, my condolences. My condolences, Landon. I had no idea. It hit so close to home.
Right. Well, 25 plus years too. Wow. So
okay.
It was, I grew up in the industry basically.
That was a joke to all my car people that are watching. I love the business. I'm just teasing you. So,
I was actually in the business myself for about 3 years. So I totally understand where you're coming from. But one of the things that salespeople in general, especially this part of the sales industry, get is a bad reputation. So a lot of people are considered too pushy. And one of my methods that I teach my students is selling people without coming across that way.
Right.
What is your take on selling to people without coming across too pushy?
Okay, it's pretty simple. I think the difference between pressure and persuasion is technique and intention. I think people really feel where you're coming from. So give you an example. If we go to 2 different situations talking about pressure. And again, in the business that I'm in, the automotive business, you have 2 extremes of local people and people that drive a longer distance, right? And with the internet now, we'll have people sometimes driving hours to see a specific vehicle because it's the only place they can find it online or whatever the situation is. Maybe they're in town for business and they stop by the dealership. And if I'm selling somebody that's not from the physical area, if they're hours away, I actually tell them, I say, listen, here's what's happening. You're in the air right now for work, or you came in here because you saw this truck online. It's the last one out there, and you've got to drive home, 2 hours or 5 hours, whatever it's going to be. With your permission, I'm going to apply some gentle pressure here, because once you leave, you aren't coming back. And I understand this. So it's a different situation for both of us. Would you allow me, please, to do whatever I got to do here in the next 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, to try to sell you this vehicle? Would you give me permission to do that? And once you get a green light on that, you'd be surprised what you can do and get away with the right intention. But if you've got somebody who's fairly local and whatever that means to your current market, Los Angeles local with the traffic, maybe it's no more than about 5 miles away.
Right.
If you're on the outskirts of a big city, it could be a couple hundred miles away. But if you've got somebody that's sort of somewhat local, then the way you go about that's a little different because of your local reputation and the fact that these people will come back for service or have an opportunity to come back to buy from you. So there's a lot of different dynamics that decide what that means, but your intention, I think, is key. You've got to, say what you mean and mean what you say and not lie. And I don't think people tend to buy from people that they like as much as they buy from people that they respect. As long as they know where you're coming from, and you've got, ethical techniques. I think the difference between pressure and persuasion is technique. It's all how you do it. And if you're going to be pursuing a sale, every time you pursue that same customer, you've got to come at them from a slightly different approach. You can't come at them from the same way more than once or twice, because it's like, dude, I already told you, no to that. But if you've got a slightly different tact, a different approach, either logically or emotionally or whatever it's going to be, in the way that you're approaching the sale, either in front of them or by email or by text or on the phone, you can come at some customers 3, 4, 5 times easily, but it's got to be it's got to be from customer service, from a customer service perspective. They have to see that there's a win-win there for them as well. It just can't be about you all the time. So the pressure conversation is a little different. I'll tell you, just finish that up if I could. If I was someone's manager, I would, maybe once a year, every 6 months, I would like a complaint from a customer saying, this guy just won't leave me alone. And then I would back up and say, okay, was he professional? Did he swear? Did he do anything unethical? They go, no, it's none of that. Just, he just keeps calling me or texting me or keeps asking me questions or whatever it is. And I would say, well, you know what? Quite frankly, he's doing his job or she's doing her job. I appreciate that. I'll speaking to that person. I'll talk to them. And my first talking to them would be, because it's not, every day, it's maybe every month or 6 months, or it's high five, way to go. You're doing your job. I think salespeople in a lot of cases, they're actually more guilty of the opposite, which is, fear of rejection takes them over, or then they don't have the training or the depth to come, to approach that customer in different ways, that they're just trying the same technique 3, 4, 5 times, and that doesn't work. So I think there's a lot of elements to that as far as persuasion goes, or being too pushy.
Yeah, well, it's persistence. It's persistence with a respectful demeanor.
Right.
One of the things that you said in that I've noticed has changed, and kind of goes back to my previous question, is when you tell that customer, that client who is in town from hours away, I get this. If you leave here without this, you're not coming back.
Yeah.
Your cards are on the table.
Right.
They can't be mad at you because you just told them what you'd like to do. And if they agree to it, then straightforward. There's no sneaky behind the scenes tactic. It's up front and, hey, look, this is my job and I'm going to do my job. Are you okay with that?
And the person that drove hours usually can appreciate that.
Sure.
Because they did drive hours.
Right.
Last thing they want to do is drive home feeling like you didn't try, or thinking there might have been a way to get it done that you didn't discover or uncover. So I think it's really a two-way street. I find you usually generate a lot of rapport with that person when you put it that way, and usually will end up selling them.
Right.
Because they totally appreciate what you're doing, because they made the effort. Now I'm going to make the effort, and once you go, it's over. So let's get this thing done.
Yep. So being real and being straightforward.
Yeah.
So do you think that good salespeople are born, or do you think they're made?
That's how many times I've heard that question. I think you do need some elements as a person. You do. Yeah. I think there's so many things here I could say. I often talk about a musician that has a musical ear. I played piano for years. Yeah. I love music. I love to dance. I never had a musical ear in front of that keyboard. I needed the notes in front of me all the time.
Right.
Or my sister could hear a song, sit down, and kind of play that song. Well, she's a musician. I'm a person that just was playing piano. So I think a great salesperson, you need an ear. You do need an ear for sales. Yep. You have to discern when that script is freaking ridiculous or not instantly. And you have to kind of also maybe walking around, your sales environment and hear a salesperson say something and kind of stop in your tracks and go, oh man, that was terrible. I can't believe they just said that. Or the opposite. Wow, she really nailed it. That was brilliant. I'm writing that down. I'm going to steal that, make that my own. So I think that understanding of the impact of language.
Right.
You either get that or you don't. And I see some people in my training, I go through the nuances of different words, and there's all kinds of phrases you can say and not say. And some people right away get like, holy cow, that makes sense. Statistically with 100 people, these words are going to have a totally different impact than those words.
Right.
And again, depending what philosophies you come out from underneath in your training, when you're trained, some training companies don't have, in my mind, an ear for that. I see some of their scripts, and I'm like, never mind the script aspect. The stuff you're saying here, I would never even attempt to say it because I know what would happen.
Yeah.
But, so anyway, sorry, Landon, I think you need an ear for it. And then I think you need, the understanding of language. I think those are innate. Does not mean though the sales has to be your first language, or sorry, English has to be your first language. Right. I know a lot of great salespeople that it's a second or third language, but they understand the nuances of tone and, pitch and body language, that people pick up that stuff more than what you're actually saying.
Right.
And then beyond that, you need to drive. Joe Girard, a good friend of mine, is a Guinness World Record holder in car sales. And he talks about, now he's getting close to 90 years of age. He's still going strong and doing his talks and so on. And he talks about salespeople having fire in their belly. Mm-hmm. You do need to drive. My drive initially was not to be successful. It was to get out of failure. But I had an extremely strong drive to get myself out of some situations I just could see I didn't want to be in anymore. So I think the drive, that's innate. If you don't have that, it doesn't have to be for money. One of the great things with selling is you're always, either selling somebody something or being sold. So if you want to get better at sales, just so you can understand when you're being sold more so, that's great. You can use it as almost like a self-defense. If you want to get better at sales to make money, give it to your family or to your church. You don't have to keep it all. Mm-hmm. You can't help your family, your church, people around you if you're broke. Mm-hmm. So I don't think there's anything wrong with making lots of money, depending on how you want to use it. If you want to get better at sales to pay off debt, to set up a better retirement situation, to have your kids be more proud of you and where they live, just to develop certain skills. There's a lot of different things that sales overlaps into, but you have to attach to a motivating why. Why do you want to get good at it? What's your drive? And then from there, you're going to build up your own sales personality. Every sales personality should be different and will be.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So really, and I'm following with this. You have to have the ability to naturally connect and relate with people and have some of those natural born skills. And then you have to have the drive piece of it. Now, how about the other side of that? Good salespeople being made. What are some of the key elements in there that kind of go along with what you just said about the things you have to naturally have? How does somebody see or go about being made a good salesperson?
Okay, I think there's a half a dozen things there. And a lot of it you'll see once you're actually working with them. It's hard to pick this stuff up in training. Some people are great students, they're not great salespeople. Mm-hmm. Right? Some people are great salespeople, they're not going to be great students. When you're actually out there selling whatever you're selling to whoever you're selling. Okay? If somebody gives you a list of people to call or email or things to check into, some people's reaction is instantly, why are you giving me this list? What's wrong with them? Mm-hmm. Why aren't you doing this? Or why should I do this? And somebody else's reaction is, okay, let me go at it. I'm going to see what I can uncover, whatever time it's going to take me. Even if they're not interested, maybe I'll talk to somebody along the way that will be. So I call that just basic gratitude, like gratitude for opportunity, gratitude for learning, gratitude for leads. If you don't take this attitude of gratitude into work every day, because sales involves a lot of rejection, mm-hmm. you're going to become awfully crusty, awfully negative, and your customers pick that up. So it's an overall sense of gratitude. Look at my gratitudes every day. I've actually got a little ritual for that. But gratitude is absolutely one thing I think is really important for salespeople. Another one is resilience. If you've ever played sports, and I often will ask salespeople when I'm hiring them if they have any sports background, either coaching or playing or even watching sports a lot. Resiliency is so important, and you learn that in life or in sports or somewhere. But you got to be able to stand up and dust yourself off and go back at it with the same gratitude and energy you had, before the rejection. So resiliency is really important. Right. Another one is personal accountability. If it's meant to be, it's up to me, literally. One thing about sales is you're going to make whatever you deserve to make based on how you approach your own career. So if you're looking to blame it on your boss, blame it on bad leads, blame it on the weather, blame it on the lunar cycle, always point fingers to somebody else. It starts here. It starts and ends here. Then there's other conditions that I want to work on. But personal accountability, I think, is really, really, really important. So if you've got those basic elements and a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Oh, sense of humor to me is so important. If I had to pick somebody that loves cars and likes people versus somebody that's good with people and has a sense of humor, yeah. I'm hiring that person all day long because I can teach them cars. And if you can get people laughing and smiling during a sale, mm-hmm. I mean, the bond that happens there biochemically is so much better, let alone just, psychologically. I think humor is important. Ability to laugh at yourself.
Right.
If you can't laugh at yourself at the end of the day, it's hard. It's a really hard career. It's a really hard career. And that doesn't matter what you're selling.
Yeah.
I think.
So you just covered a bunch of things that salespeople need to have. What are some of the most common problems you see with salespeople struggling with?
I often hear salespeople are lazy. I hear that a lot. Great salespeople aren't lazy, but what they do protect is their ROI, which is the return on energy. So what they don't want to do is waste your time and energy on a bunch of things that aren't going to work. And depending on the environment that they're brought up in, there could be a lot of things they're being told to do that aren't going to work because they're being taught by people that have never done it, or when they did do it, they did it so long ago it's irrelevant today, or they're learning some of those things that I talk about in the industry, the bogus stats that are meaningless, slowing down the customer, staying off price, all these kind of practices that happen in my industry, these scripts. So I think what happens is they become jaded and skeptical, and the resistance or the rejection they get from the clients, they internalize. Mm-hmm. As soon as you start to internalize that, you're done. Yeah. You have no right in being confident as a salesperson unless you're well prepared. Right. But if you are well prepared, confidence is something you should just have. And being well prepared starts every day because things change. And sometimes there's random situations that don't come up a lot. You got to be studying. One of the traits that I probably should have mentioned is a person that's willing to study their trade. If you're not willing to, and I'm sure you do, and you keep up with what's going on in your industries, and you watch competitors and you read books or whatever you're doing, or other people's podcasts, you have to just kind of keep your brain in the game and stay with things. So I think some salespeople go kind of, I've been there, done that. I've read the book, I've seen the show, don't need to learn anymore. Studying is another massive part of success for great salespeople.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that you talked about at the beginning of this conversation was the market's changing, and because we have these, the market itself is changing. The auto industry specifically is going through a massive change because consumers have the ability to get to that information without having to deal with the human first. Right. How do you think car salespeople are going to adapt with that change?
As it stands right now, for the salespeople that have adapted, it's never been a better time to be in the business.
Really?
Absolutely. You can learn how to handle email leads and sales calls with such proficiency that you're basically, you sell it before they even come in.
Yeah.
So I love email leads. I love taking sales calls because your ability to set that up is so great because people are doing the research. They're almost transaction ready at the first point of contact. So just, the right personality or approach to think, okay, I found the right lady, I found the right guy. Product was good enough for me to call in the first place. Pricing couldn't have been bad, or I wouldn't have called either. Because everybody checks out prices before they're looking for confirmation and reassurance. So as of right now, the internet and these smartphones, it is absolutely, in my history in this business or time in this business now since I was 16 years of age, it's never been a better time. Going forward, everybody's trying to consolidate. They've been trying to consolidate dealerships in the automotive market now for decades. Automotive manufacturers in the 80s and 90s tried to get in directly. They tried buying out dealerships in certain markets and making it manufacturer direct selling. The laws across the United States and Canada and most of the world, but North America for sure, they're going to have a very hard time doing that to bypass the dealership. There's just so many things that are in the way that if they could do it, they probably would have done it years ago. That probably will never happen. With the online purchase, though, people are getting more and more comfortable doing everything online. So they're getting more comfortable with that, but they still have to go through a franchise dealership. So the salesperson has to get used to the new technologies and the new sales process and the new ways of communicating with people. And if they do, they will have, in my foreseeable future, I'm going to have no problem dealing with that. So outside of the franchise laws and those technological items I just talked about, the other big thing that's different in car sales is the trade-in. And right now, about half the transactions have trades. So, let's say you're going to, go buy another big screen TV or whatever it is that you're into, heavy-duty electronic item. Could you imagine dragging in your big screen TV into, Circuit City or wherever you're buying what you're buying, and saying, okay, first off, what are you going to give me for my TV? And then let's talk about the other one. You just paid $2,000 or $700 for this TV, or if it's a few years old, paid $11,000 for your big screen. Oh. And now they're saying the thing's worth, $75 or $125. Because car salespeople are simultaneously buying something that was of value that they sold you, that was supposedly, great, and you paid all kinds of money for that thing a few years ago, but now it's worth nothing to them, and you are emotionally attached to it, while they're trying to resell you another item, going through the same kind of, thing they did when they sold you this piece of shit that is now worth nothing.
Right.
That whole dynamic is just not present in any other industry. I'm sitting here in my kitchen, if you can see where I am. I don't bring my fridge in to buy a new fridge.
Yep.
And to the same sales guy that sold me that fridge, if that happened, and if that was what we did regularly, so I just, where I'm going with that is, when we think of car salespeople is a bit different because of that, how we feel about them, because they're buying our old stuff. But also to do that entire transaction online, as long as there's one person in every market that says, or is able to put up a website that says, hey, look, I know you can go trade in your car in online someplace, and I know you can buy a car online someplace, and nobody needs to look at it, because they're going to tell you based on pictures and full disclosure that your vehicle's worth X dollars and you got to buy one for this much money. But I am the last guy around that still physically wants to see your old fridge or car or stove. And if you bring it to me, I'm going to pay you more money than those other guys because I've got a network of outside buyers. I've got the ability to turn that thing back out in the marketplace better than them. That person would own the local car business because of that human touch on the trade. So until they make it, I don't want to be a predictor because I don't want to do that. But sometimes I don't know if the sun's coming down here the wrong way. But I don't see that this is going to go to a fully online transaction because of the trade-in. And also, the product is generally serviced locally. So a lot of people want to feel some connection to the service part of it, and they want to buy it from a human so they can bring it back to the same building if something goes wrong or if I need an oil change. So between the service and the trade-in, I'm not sure it's ever going to go completely online.
Right.
There's my long answer. I don't have short answers. I'm sorry.
No. That's good. It's been a long time since I was involved in this world. Really, even before we had the technology that we've got today. When I was selling cars, we didn't have smartphones yet.
Right.
I mean, we could text, but it was, the 10 digits or whatever, and you had to punch it 40 times. Right, exactly. Yeah. So coming from my current world, looking at what you're talking about is really interesting from the technology standpoint. Is there anything technology-wise that you recommend that's specific to car sales technology for the car sales people that we haven't talked about yet, above and beyond the tools that are on smartphones?
Social media's got to be connected on your phone. That's great technology. I've talked about those apps. There's 4 apps I think they should get: Google Duo, Google Earth, the Finance Calculator, those texting apps. Setting up your address book proficiently with the customer's picture beside their vehicle, so every time they call you, you call them, that picture comes up. Other technology. I do mass texting, so anytime I do a seminar, people opt in to get on a list where I send them tips twice a month. If I was selling cars, I'd be doing the same thing, is sending out probably just a nice little text tip or very short text joke, something very clean every month or so. Email, this stuff's all been around for a long time. A lot of people don't check their emails often anymore, just delete them. So that's a really good question. I don't have stuff right now in terms of my suite of tools that I talk about. I'm trying to think of other top salespeople that are out there. Outside of that, no, there's some neat things that come and go to the business, but nothing that I think of right now.
So it's still really down to the basics. It's the tools that we all naturally have available to us, and there's nothing that's specific. There's no secret that's out there kept hidden from everybody.
No.
And that's what it comes down to. There's no secret.
Even videos. I mean, there's all kinds of videos you can do that you can send customers, you can post to YouTube. Yeah. That to me is a standard technology. A lot of salespeople in the seminar are like, wow, I never thought of that. I've never seen that. Well, that's because they're not students of the business. They're not out there seeing what the other top salespeople in different markets are doing.
Right.
But I consider YouTube and all these tools that car salespeople should be using as nothing advanced or nothing new. It's just they've been there for a decade. It's just using it properly and all the time.
Right. Some
salespeople think they're going to put up one video and, I did a video, I didn't sell anything. Like, no, you have to have a presence. You have to have a presence.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. How about any specific car sale technology that can make car sales trainers' lives easier?
Okay, so I'm going to go backwards on this one. When I do a seminar, I don't use PowerPoint. PowerPoint slows down the seminar, slows down the talk. People are reading it at, you have to dim the lights. PowerPoint is now a command or a license to put people to sleep.
Yep.
I might use a dry erase board for the odd little note. I might use a flip chart. I don't like having to show up someplace and rely on technology. Sometimes you can't get the technology working. Yep. And if you're a speaker who relies on that, your talk, you're starting it so frazzled. I feel bad for them because they rely on that. So I guess the other trainers here that are watching, I guess my suggestion is I go totally old school on that. I got some notebooks that they're keeping notes in and keep it interactive with them. But I know my material. I have no notes in front of me right now except for my 2 books, which everybody should go buy on Amazon, which aren't open. Unstoppable Money, there we go. Great little book of big money. And Unstoppable Selling, it was an Amazon bestseller. And I got a new one coming out in about a month called Unstoppable Attitude. But these are sitting here closed. I think trainers, you've got to know your material, like inside, outside, and backwards. You can't be relying on anything to get that done.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. What an excellent conversation. It's interesting hearing from somebody else who's training in a specific or a slightly different industry, the things that I picked up myself. This was fantastic. I appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Landon. I appreciate it too.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that has come to mind in the last 30 or 40 minutes that I didn't bring up question-wise that the people that are following you need to hear?
Intelligent, polite, persistence eliminates buyer's resistance. You talked about that. Yeah. That's an easy sentence. Yeah. That requires a lot of learning. A salesperson needs a rebuttal, 2 or 3 rebuttals to every typical objection or hurdle a customer is going to give them. And the rebuttal can't be cheesy. It's got to be genuine and sound like you. And it's got to be ethical and without lying. So that requires, again, more studying or modeling or paying attention. Rebuttals and comebacks are absolutely key. I think a salesperson every morning should have a success ritual on how they start their day. A, for their health, maybe. Physical health. I talk a lot about physical health and physical energy is your base. And if a salesperson is not feeding their body and feeding their mind, it's going to be a very hard go. So take care of yourself, and a lot of salespeople don't. And I look at my goals, my gratitudes every day. That kind of gives me the mojo and the mindset and the compass to map out what I want to do. And I'm always looking to get myself better. I work way harder on myself than I do on my business or when I'm with a client, so I'm prepared when that time comes. So I think, preparation and studying, and I'm not saying this because I'm a trainer. You should see everybody's stuff out there, not just mine. Go out there and watch all the trainers out there. But I think preparation and training are absolutely key. That's all available on my website, by the way, which is www.duanemarino.com, DUANEMARINO. I've got the biggest online training resource in the car business to anyone. I've got about 3,000 online videos that I stream. You can buy a subscription to that. And we train salespeople, sales managers, business managers, and service advisors. So we've got a full syllabus and curriculum for anybody out there that wants to get themselves into a better sales shape. We can help you out with that.
That's fantastic. Well, Dwayne, thank you very much for your time today. For everybody who's watching this, you heard it here first. You need to have an unstoppable mind and attitude. Unstoppable mindset and attitude. Dwayne, you have a great day. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Take care.
Thank you.